Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you guys could join us for another Joy to Job webinar. My name is Katie, and I'm a student at UBC.
I'm Melissa, a grade 12 student at Western Canada High School.
I'm Ellen, a grade 11 student at Dr. E.P. Scarlett High School.
And I'm Paul, the newest Joy to Job member and a grade 11 student at Western Canada High School. We will be your moderators for the webinar this evening.
Joining us, we also have four very special panelists, all from various careers and trades. We have Joel, Megan, Rupert, and Dan with us today.
Before we get to know the amazing panel of speakers, we would like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, MRU, SAIT, Blackline Safety, and Inception U for making this webinar possible. Blackline Safety is a rapidly growing Calgary-based technology company focused on helping industries run a safer and more efficient worksite. And Inception U is a learning institution that offers both virtual and person programs where you can develop technical skills to prepare you for the future. MRU is an amazing academic institution in Calgary, Alberta, as is SAIT. Today, in fact, our panel features some of the experts found at SAIT.
So first off, we're going to start the webinar by just getting to know a bit about our panelists and kind of learning about their experiences and perspectives. After the introductions, we're going to move on to some of the great questions that the students have submitted. The students submitted a lot of really great questions, so we'll try to get through as many of those as possible. And for those of you who are joining us live, if you do have any questions that come up over the course of the webinar, feel free to pop those in the Q&A feature, which should be at the bottom of your screen. As well, we are offering this webinar with closed captioning, so if that's something you'd like to use, it is available.
So first, we're going to ask our panelists a few questions that we've prepared so that we can get to know them better. We'll go in the order of Joel, Megan, Rupert, and then Dan. So the first question is, what post-secondary education have you received? And then what has your career path been since you graduated post-secondary? And lastly, what do you like most about your job? So Joel, do you want to start us off?
You bet. So yeah, my name's Joel Michaud. Thanks for having me today. It's nice to be with this crew. It looks like a good initiative. So my education was through SAIT, and I took my ticket in carpentry. And after a few years working in carpentry, I also have my cabinet making ticket now. As far as job evolution went, I was a part of a thing called the RAP program. It's the Registered Apprenticeship program. So it essentially sets up students while they're still in high school to start building hours towards a trade of their choice. And back when I started, it was a really new program, but it's really blossomed to a really awesome, cool thing that a lot of students or a lot of people should be looking into. So out of high school, at the age of 20, I had my carpenter's ticket. I worked for a few years in that trade and then evolved into cabinet making, worked with a company there, evolved into a foreman at that position. And then about 8 years ago, I was able to start my own company. And now I build the guitars, acoustic guitars, specializing in sort of custom one-offs, and I ship my guitars all over the world. And then what was the last question? Remind me, Melissa?
What do you like most about your job?
Ooh, I guess I love that I was able to turn something that many would consider a hobby into a career. For myself, it was something that I dreamed about that I would be able to do when I was, 65. As soon as I retire, I'd be able to build guitars. And just through hard work, a little bit of dedication and elbow grease, I was able to make it happen by the age of 25. So that's my favorite part, is I'm living my hobby.
That's really amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Megan, do you want to go next?
Yes, I would. Thank you for having me here. Really excited about this webinar with the group and all the folks who are going to look at it. So yeah, my name is Megan Mathis. My pronouns are she and her. I want to start off by saying I'm an openly transgender woman in the skilled trades and construction industry in Alberta, and I've had a wonderful career, and I'm really excited to be here today with the group. My post-secondary education started off in the skilled trades. I was actually working at a restaurant down in Lethbridge, Burger King, and I kept trying to take apart equipment on the night shift and fix it. And the repair company saw me as a bit of an opportunity and a threat, and ended up offering me a position to work for them. So that's how I got into a apprenticeship at first. So my schooling started off at SAIT as well in Calgary, going through apprenticeship training. And then as I moved into a supervisory role, I realized I didn't quite have all the skills I needed to be a good supervisor. So I started taking some upgrading courses to help me be a better supervisor. And in Alberta, I received the Alberta Achievement in Business Competencies Blue Seal certificate, which was showing that I have a bit more management type skills and help me be a better supervisor. And as my career evolved and I got into management and leading teams of people, again, I found I had to upgrade some more skills, and I went to the University of Calgary in a certificate program, and I came out with a certificate of professional management. That's kind of the sum of my post-secondary education. The career path since I graduated, as I mentioned, I started off in fast food and found myself in the repair industry. The first ticket that I received was a refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, and with that, I was able to work at all kinds of amazing facilities all over Western Canada, and work in some really unique areas that and on equipment that got shipped all over the world. I also received a gas fitter ticket, so I can work on natural gas and propane appliances. And just after being a field tech for a while and moving into supervisory roles and management, I ended up working in the field for about 14 years. I've been a manager for 12 years. And just recently, I moved from being the general manager of services in Alberta for Modern Niagara to working for their parent company nationally in a HR role as senior manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I've had quite a unique career, and what I can say to everyone is go out there and get it. The world is open for you. The last question: what do I like most about my job? Ever since I was really young, I wanted to be a doctor, and I didn't quite have the schooling to get me there, but I found my passion through fixing equipment and helping people with the skills that I had. So I've always had two kind of founding principles in my life, that I wanted to help others, and I wanted to keep learning forever in my life, and I've been able to achieve those throughout my career.
Thank you so much for sharing. Rupert, do you want to go next? Rupert, I think you're muted.
What a rookie mistake here. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rupert Kaup. I am a chef by trade, currently working at SAIT. And I did my high school, and I went to the apprenticeship program from an educational perspective. In what I like most of my job was the flexibility of deciding where you work. And you hear probably on my accent, I'm not born here in Canada. I worked on cruise ships. I worked in Switzerland. I'm originally from Germany. I came to Canada 30 years ago. Just to explore really North America, nothing else than that. And the job in the culinary industry is just giving you that opportunity to really choose where you want to be. There's some good attributes in our job, and that is nothing ever has to be in a certain way. So there's a lot of flexibility and creativity, if you will. I always and I hope there's no auto mechanic around here. So I said, if you're an auto mechanic, there's only 4 places where you can put a tire. As a chef, you can create any kind of dishes and twist them around and do a fusion with other cultures. So there's also a lot of exciting moments in regards of getting people together. It's also a diplomacy kind of an approach, because everything starts with food. Every conversation is better with food. When we meet with friends at home, we usually meet in the kitchens. We usually be around that, and so that's really, really exciting. In my career, like I said, I worked in different countries, and I came to Canada, where I started getting a little bit more in supervisory positions, just like Megan was mentioned before. Sometimes in your career, you're finding yourself, there's new challenges, something that you never really thought before you get into a trade. You might wake up one day and saying, I want to become a chef. But I don't think so that you're going to wake up one morning and saying you want to become an academic chair in the School of Hospitality and Tourism at SAIT, right? So these kind of positions come as you work and you're taking responsibility. So my training, or what I received working for these bigger companies, is a lot of leadership training in any kind of form, from train the trainer to safety to just how to build a good team. And I was fortunate enough to work for a company that is well known in Canada, the Fairmont Hotel property. They had all over Canada properties, and so I was able to work in Lake Louise, in Banff, in Jasper, and also in Halifax. So I got to travel a little bit around. And again, traveling is really what motivates me most on that job. Obviously in the younger years, but these opportunities, they just link you into working with bigger operation, more responsibilities, and all of a sudden there was that job coming up at SAIT. And we all, I think, at one point want to give back, and that giving back is obviously coming hand in hand with you working for an institution. And so was it easy? To be quite honest, no, it wasn't easy to go from the hospitality industry into education. It was pretty tough from the beginning, but the rewarding thing is every day, and that's what most chefs drive on, is that that reward that you get by the satisfaction of your customers. And the customers were in the hotel, the guests that eat, and in the school, our customers, our guests, our student. And so I encourage anybody, fulfill your dreams, do what you like. I think Joel was saying your job is a hobby. I think we all should strive to make our hobby our job, so that we are excited to go to work, and everything else comes pretty by itself with it. You just need to you need to care. There's one thing that you need to do, whatever you do, is care about it. And if you do care about it, you will get opportunities.
Thank you so much, Rupert. Dan, do you want to finish us off?
Sure. Thanks for the invitation to be here today, and I welcome everybody who's taking part in this. So my name is Dan Weinert. I am currently the interim academic chair of the Wood Trades Department at SAIT. So I look after cabinet making and carpentry, apprenticeship, and pre-employment program. So Joel and I are kindred spirits. I too am a journeyman cabinet maker and a journeyman carpenter. So for my post-secondary education, and I also like to say, and sorry to any of you who to whom this might be a disappointment, you will indeed be a lifelong learner. That's the way life goes. So the moment you think you're done your education, sorry to burst your bubble. Anyways, so I started cabinet making when I was 19, and got my ticket. And then when I was 30 years old, I did a bachelor's degree. Then when I was 41 years old, I completed my carpentry ticket. I had already been working at SAIT by that time, and so this was so that I could shift into another role. And then at age 49, I did a master's degree in education. So I'm 54 now, and so I'm waiting for the next bit of education that is going to come my way. And I promise you, it's going to happen. it's probably not going to be a PhD. That's over the top. So anyways, so that's my education. And so of course that's been going on continually throughout my throughout my work career. So the career path is first of all, I am passionate about being a tradesman. I will always consider myself a tradesman. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, even in my role in education. I am proud to be a tradesman. I love being a tradesman. I love everything about it. And so I will always be a strong advocate. But I love this side of education too. This is a new passion that I kind of fell into when I became an instructor at SAIT. So that was 16 years ago, I became an instructor. But I always thought I was going to be self-employed. So when I was 16 years old, I bought a printing press and I started Big Hill Specialty Printing when I was in high school. And printed business cards and hockey pucks and all sorts of interesting things until my machine broke down and I couldn't, there were no parts to repair it. So then I started searching around, and that's how I ended up in cabinet making. And like others have said, I couldn't, for the first 5 years of cabinet making, I couldn't believe that I actually got paid to do this. It was staggering to me. And then, many years later, becoming an instructor, it was the same thing. I can't believe, and my colleagues, please don't tell SAIT this, but I can't believe I actually get paid to do this. It's more fun the longer I do it. So I was, along the way, I was self-employed. I started my cabinet making business when I was a first-year apprentice and had that company for 15 years, though I worked for others and I was self-employed along the way. And then in a moment of frustration, being a contractor on a job site, I made a call to SAIT asking if they were looking for instructors. And a week later, I signed a contract to work for them. And so for the last 16 years, I've been at SAIT and absolutely loving that. But I will always be connected to the trades because I don't know how to describe it. That's my passion. So that leads into, what I like most about my job is, well, I don't know, everything. I love, as Rupert said, there's something about giving back. I think that's what, it's a common refrain for anybody who's in the trades and who moves, either if you're a journeyman working with an apprentice, or if you become an instructor in an institution like ours. There's just something so rewarding about giving back, sharing your experience with others. It's amazing to me. I've taught everything from first year all the way to fourth year. And when you see those same faces come through first year and they're nervous about getting into the trade and, trying to understand about coming to school, and then you see them in fourth year and you've seen how they've grown. Some have facial hair that they never had or less hair than they started off with. And then you see how they've matured over the years, grown into the trade. I don't know how you top that. You just get to see how they've grown over the years. And you're in my role, you're investing in their lives. So that's fun, rewarding, and all of that. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Dan. And thank you to all the panelists for introducing yourselves. I'll now pass it on to Ellen.
Yeah, so now we're going to move on to some of the amazing questions that the students have submitted. So the first one we'll put out to Dan and Rupert. And the question is, what extracurricular activities are good to do during high school for someone interested in your field? So we'll have Dan answer that first.
Sure, thanks, Ellen. When I saw the question, I wasn't sure how to answer it. So I'm huge into cycling. I own 20 bikes. Can you imagine? And I do every kind of cycling you can imagine. I don't have a unicycle though, so I don't do that. But every other imaginable type of cycling I do. Now, is that because I'm a carpenter and therefore cycling relates to carpentry? Absolutely not. And so how I would answer the question is that it's not about finding some activity that matches the career you want to get into. I would suggest you're already doing the activity that you love. You're already doing it, whether it's, and it doesn't matter if it's gaming, if it's reading books, if it's walking, playing with your dog, playing whatever. What you're already doing is what you love to do. Otherwise, you'd be doing something else. And so, and maybe that's part of the advice too, would be like think about what you're already doing, what you already love to do. That reveals a whole lot to you about who you are as a person and your skill sets, your interests, all of those things. So don't discount what it is that you already love doing. If you're interested in cycling, you can give me a call.
Well, that's a tough one to follow there, Dan. Always inspiring. I would suggest that I think Dan averted away from asking you to do a job somewhere, to do certain things, and it immediately came to me as well. It's have fun while you are in high school and relax. You are not going to be thrown into the workforce and then have to all of a sudden know it all. It takes a long time to get to that point. But my suggestion is, whatever you want to do yourself a favor and Google and research some of the best companies that you should go to work for. If you want to be a chef, go check out the best restaurant in the city. And then, find out and maybe have some conversation with some of the leadership in there. Try to have a meeting with somebody that works in that field and ask them what life is like. How much do they like their job? What does it mean to be a chef? So that maybe it gives you some answers that you say, I like cooking, but maybe I don't really want to do this because of that and that and that, right? So there is information out there. So try to get as many information as you can from people that are already in that field. And don't be shy about it. People are happy to pass on their knowledge to you. You would be very surprised how open they would be for you to come in to ask some question what it means to be a chef in one of the nice hotels that we have or restaurant that we have in Calgary.
Yeah, thank you both, Dan and Rupert. Those were really insightful answers. I think that high school students often overlook what they already love doing. So that's a really insightful take. So our next question will pass on to Joel. And the question is there a lot of job stability in your field?
Ooh, good question. So the field that I currently work in, like the custom guitar market, it's sort of a niche inside of a niche. And the one thing I'll always say to everybody, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So even though I, alluded to earlier that I get to live my hobby every day, it doesn't mean that I didn't work for it. Like I had my regular job where I would work the 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. And then I would go home and I would build guitars until I couldn't, stay awake, essentially. So I was building this little side business for 10 years before I ever even considered going into it full time. It was only full time when I had a wait list long enough that I could no longer, justify asking my clients to wait 8 years for a guitar. So I would say that it really depends on what sector you're in. For myself, the job security, I personally have an awesome job security. I have about 3 to 4 years worth of guitars still to build. So, but realize that's a very privileged one-off position that I worked very hard to get to. I would say that you'd have better luck probably being a musician than a guitar maker. And that just shows how rare it is to succeed in this field. So if you truly love something, you can make it work, is the moral of the story. But it's not always going to be easy. But if it is your passion, there's times where it can feel, the hard stuff can feel good too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Like a combination of passion and hard work. That's a really good answer. So our next question we'll put to Megan. The question is, how long is an apprenticeship process and what is it like?
Yeah, that's a great question and a common one. I'll also add in that as soon as I received my trade ticket, I signed up for an apprenticeship committee. So I joined an apprenticeship committee, and I actually ended up volunteering for 18 years with Alberta Apprenticeship, and ended off as a board member for my last 6 years. So I've had the fortune of working with a lot of different trades and a lot of different people across Alberta. And this is a very common question that comes up. People don't really understand how it works and what the process is. So many of the traditional apprenticeship programs, we had around 50 of them in the province of Alberta. And the government's currently working to expand that offering even further. But a lot of them are a 4-year term. So, it sounds kind of similar to a university degree, like getting a bachelor degree or something like that, where it would have that similar time frame. Part of the difference is it's a three-way contract that you end up signing between yourself, the government, and the place where you're going to work. You need someone who's going to sponsor you and teach you and train you. So in that 4-year term, you're not in school for the whole time, and you're not necessarily working out in the field for the whole time. There's a number of different delivery options available, as a lot of the students who will be watching this have seen as well, where COVID and different things come up, and we all had to scramble and learn new ways of learning and interacting with each other. But the traditional block release format that we've had in place for a long time, it had students going to school for approximately 8 weeks for the average one. There's some that are less and some that are more. And in that 8-week or 2-month time period, that's where you get your theory and some technical training. You might see some equipment and stuff at the institutions that you wouldn't normally necessarily see in every type of job. So it's a great place to see some different stuff. And then the remainder of the year, call it the other 10 months, that's when you're building up your apprenticeship hours with your employer and working under the supervision of a certified journey person, and you develop your craft, and that's when you really do the hands-on learning. So that there is no real set timeline of when you have to do that schooling in comparison to when you do the work. And we've seen it in different provinces and jurisdictions where some people will front load a bit of schooling, some of them will do it partway through or towards the end, and it's usually an open conversation between yourself and your employer based on workload, because we do see some seasonality between different trades and different occupations. So yeah, overall it's around a 4-year time period, but some of them may be less and some may be more. A lot of on-the-job training, and one of the big bonuses that I really like, and I think some of my companions who are tradespeople on the call here, is we got to get paid and kind of a paid internship along the way. Come out with debt, but maybe not quite as much as some other folks who are in university the whole time. And at each step along the way, although I learned a lot, I really felt that it was setting me up for success at that next level to go out in industry and immediately offer more to my clients and to the company that I worked for. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I think that a lot of listeners can take a lot from that. It's very informative. Thank you. All right, so our next question we'll put to Rupert and Joel. The question is, what does your day-to-day work look like? And so Rupert, you can go ahead and answer that first. Oh, just make sure your mic is.
I will answer this as a chef, not as an academic chair. As an academic chair, your work day looks like, how would I say this? Every day something different. So it's hard to explain of because you can't focus really on one thing all the time. But as a chef, you work, that's a fantastic thing on being a chef. It's not really one of those jobs where you're going to do something similar every day, right? It's always different. There is a lot of different functions that you do. So you would come in, you would inform yourself what's going on for the next couple of days. You might have a smaller team. You might be interacting with other team members to find out who's doing what, and then you would gain the recipes. And if you haven't been trained on it, you know, there is obviously people that can help you. There's recipe books, there's pictures available that shows you along, and there's obviously supervisors that help you. But the day-to-day job is everything from, you might be working on the cold kitchen for a while, making appetizers, or you creating desserts, or you grilling steaks, or you're making sauce and soups. There's a lot of variety in the job. It's not a dull job at all. It is really exciting from the diversity of things that you do on a daily basis. But it all depends of how big the operations are, right? Are you working in a hotel? Are you working in an elderly care home, or are you working in a hospital? Are you working in a restaurant? Are you working in a fast food restaurant? So it is really depending on that operation, but it is a job that you'll be 8 hours on your feet. There's not much sitting going around as the chef, so the hours can be long, by all means. What I think many people need to realize is if you have a big circle of friends and you're getting every Saturday evening together, the chef job maybe not for you, because you will be working Saturday nights, you will be working Friday nights, you will be working on Mother's Day, on Christmas, on New Year's Day. So when everybody else is partying, it's when you work the hardest. And so do you want to do that? Do you want to be out there partying, or you want to be creating that party? And there is something for everybody. The nice thing on being a chef is when you are off, that's usually Monday or Tuesdays, you don't stay in lines when you go shopping. You know, it's you always will find a parking spot on your day off to go do all these things, because when everybody else is off, you're working, and when they're working, you are off. So, you know, go to the swimming pool, you're probably going to be able to go there. So there are some good points on it as well, not just the Saturday, Sunday, but you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's great. Sort of like Rupert, it's really day by day, especially running a small business. You wear just about every hat, and I feel like I'm certainly more well equipped. I feel like it's funny, as a guitar maker, you think I'm sitting by candlelight all day, just chiseling away at my bench, and there's classical music playing in the background. But the reality is, I figured out my time is about 50% at my bench and 50% designing, liaising with clients, sourcing materials, accounting, all sorts of things. So I would say there is no average day. Some days I work 6 hours and zippity doodah, I go out the door for a bike ride. Life's good. The next day I might work 18 hours because there's a push comes to shove, something else is going on. The good thing about that is generally if I schedule things right, if for whatever reason I run into a roadblock with, let's say, design work, I can go and talk to a client for a bit, or I can go and do an easy woodworking task that's sort of brainless for me, that just is a lot more soothing. So especially within small businesses like this, every day is different, and it's both a blessing and a curse. I will say that I'm sometimes envious of my friends who have that, 9 to 5, and they're out the doors, zippity doo dah, and I'm looking at them through my, window, scraping at the door as I'm stressing out, bracing a top or this or that. But it's also what I love. I feel like if I lived 1 week of the 9 to 5, I would probably, regret my decision greatly. So every day is different, and that's what you come to expect as the small business owner.
Great answers, both of you. Those were really great. Our next question is for Dan and Rupert. The question is, how would you describe the environment that you work in? And so, Dan, you can answer that first for us.
The Rupert will probably get this. No one else might, but as an academic chair, I describe my job as a firefighter. Yes, you, Rupert, laughing. Yes, because that best describes it. So it's, it's an office environment, and of course, your sole responsibility is to just be the support for faculty and students, so that and the smooth running of your programs. I mean, we're kind of the grease that keeps the wheels moving. As a carpenter or cabinet maker, so I mean, I've worked in shop environments. I've been framing houses. I mostly worked in residential construction, and so a little bit of commercial. But so you're either, the environment would be, you could be working outside, if you're a framer or commercial, heavy construction, or in a shop environment, which is cabinet making. So it's a more controlled environment. It doesn't matter what the weather is doing outside. I think an important skill. Cabinet making is a bit of a solo sport. Even though you're working in a shop with a large group, sometimes you might have an apprentice or so working with you. You might be working alongside, your project could be part of a bigger project, but you tend to be working at your bench, alone on your individual project. If you're framing houses or working on a commercial project, you're working in a large team of people. So, you need to be adept at both, being able to work in a team. And I think in any industry, you could say that you're working collectively as a group to accomplish something, but individually your work might be more, solo at times. I think you have to, that's maybe what it might be a little bit of a stereotype to say that it's more hands-on working in the trades, but I don't know, maybe that is true. We tend to like more, our job is perhaps a little more physical, though, as Megan was saying, if you're into refrigeration, I mean, there is a physical aspect of it if you're doing rooftop units or so, but if you're in a, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, Megan, but if you're working in a walk-in cooler or something, it's more, immediate and I don't know, diagnostic type things. So I don't know how to describe it. Every environment is slightly different, but trust me in this, there is no trade where you don't need to have some brains to do the job. They're very complex. It's no different than, I think, getting a university degree. It's just a different skill set that you need. But you definitely need to have strong cognitive abilities and hand skills. I think I'd leave it there.
Well done, Dan. If I'm not gonna touch the academic chair work environment, I agree with you 100%. Firefighter, absolutely. When it comes to work environment, this is probably, you target me probably on purpose on that one, because chefing is definitely a fun work environment. It's young, it's dynamic, it's diverse. You have people from all over the world. The dynamic, obviously, if you're going to be working in a really small restaurant, you might find yourself by yourself, and now you're going to have to do everything on your own. But normally you will work in teams, and these teams are young individuals. I would say they exceed in the fun aspect a little bit too much. We are notorious. We're working with food. There is alcohol usually served in the front of the house. So, you put these things together, you're gonna have a good time. Let's put it this way. You eat good. You indulge a lot of good food and good drinks. But again, the work environment is not, you have to see it. I'm sure everybody watches Gordon Ramsay every once in a while, so it can be a tough environment. Chefs are not necessarily known for being tactical or nice, and they're really straightforward. They're going to tell you what is on their mind, but they usually also, they don't carry baggage on their shoulder. Once it's out, right? So it's either you straighten up and you get your stuff together, or you leave and you find something else. But it can't be, for some people, it can't be a rough environment. They are not necessarily, and I'm sure, Dan, you see this on construction sites sometimes too. It's you can't be too sensitive at times. That brings me to the respect part that is important. I think it takes all of us to create a respectful environment. So there is times when you need to speak up for yourself and not let everything go just because Rupert say it's a rough environment, so we cannot say anything if somebody treats you bad. The Gordon Ramsay is really only on TV. If a chef would do this here in Canada, they would end up being on their own because they wouldn't work for them. So, if your goal is to become that leader, you setting this environment and you setting the tone of respect. So you have to have fun in order to get some greater achievements done. And but you also need to be respectful. But it is, if you ask me, the environment, gosh, yes, a lot of fun, a lot of young people.
Really good answer again. Our next question will go to Megan and Joel. And the question is, what qualities or characteristics are needed to be successful in your industry? So Megan, you'll start us off.
Excellent, thank you. That's a really good question, and my answer to that has evolved over the years that I've been in the industry. I've had the fortune of hiring and interviewing probably call it like 1,000, 1,500 people in my career, and over time, what I've seen is that a lot of people wanted to come and showcase their mechanical abilities. They would say that they like working on cars and working on stuff around the house. And what I will say in today's economy, in today's space, is the soft skills are probably the most essential skills that I think that anyone needs to function in any role, but certainly in the skilled trades environment as well. When I look at the industry that I worked in, I was primarily a service person, but whether you're a service person, whether you're a construction worker, or whether you're in any of these other environments and trades, the ability for interpersonal communication, when I'm interviewing folks, for them to have eye contact, forward body language, being able to carry on a conversation. And I don't need them to be perfect, but I need them to try, because that shows me something that I can work with. We will show you technical skills. We will show you how to use the different tools and machinery and equipment. The institutions do a fantastic job of teaching that stuff as well over time and working on the theory. But day one, when you go to a job, or if you're going to an interview, the day that you get hired, you're interacting with other individuals in that organization. Or in the service world that I've come from, in HVAC and refrigeration and plumbing and electrical and all that stuff, if I send you over to Joel's place, to his workshop, to work on his infrared heater that he has in his workshop, I need to know that you're going to show up and carry on a conversation with Joel, and you're going to inform him if you need to leave site and come back. You're going to showcase the workplace that we come from in the right light and with the right attitude, that you're going to be honest. We know you're going to make mistakes, and the key is to not be injured We want to make sure that everyone is safe. So we want you to follow the rules, but you need to be honest when something occurs that doesn't go quite right. And trust me, it'll happen. And if you're silent, then we know that you're maybe not being forthcoming with us. So the soft skills, the interpersonal communication skills, anything you can do on that, I will absolutely say is the number one thing for me in any of these jobs. The schooling as you're in high school is really important as well. There's been this bias or thought that if you're working, if you're in school and you're doing really, really well, then you're destined for university and to be a professional, a white collar professional. And if your schooling isn't that great, then maybe you should consider a career in the trades. And that is just not true. The trades are every bit equal in merit and recognition and prestige as any other profession out there, and they deserve that same level. Us tradespeople are the ones who build the places, build and feed and take care of the environments where we drive to work, to school, to home, the places we live, the places we learn, the places where we get healed. That is all made possible by tradespeople. And you have to have good grades to get into these programs, and you need to be proficient. There is a ton of math, a ton of science. And what really helped me as well is that when I was going through grade school, I kind of struggled to relate math and science to real things, unless we were doing an experiment. And that was always kind of puzzling for me. And as soon as I went to trade school, following through some of the formulas that we learned in math and science, it all made sense to me, because it's the cooler that's in Rupert's kitchen where I can use that math to now figure out what's going on with the compressor electrically and understand what the sine wave is and how electricity works, how gases flow, how refrigeration works, how to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and pressures to temperatures and all those interesting things. It's not for the faint of heart, and it is very technical. Some of the carpenters and cabinet makers I know have the best math skills out of anyone that I've met. Another thing to keep in mind, and the last point for me is we always have to watch out for ourselves and what we're doing to prepare ourselves in life. And if you consider a career in the trades, you may also want to think about you do need to have a driver's license if you need to get yourself to and from work, or if you're going to be working in a service industry where you have to drive around from site to site. You have to have a clean record, and your employer may be looking for you to get off your graduated license in a fairly short time so they can keep you insured. There's also a lot of environments and situations where we have to work in security cleared environments. If I go to work at a prison or at a government office, I have to usually show a security clearance. And I've done a lot of work with the federal government as well, and they require a special level of security clearance if you're going to work at an armed forces base or in some data centers like for Rogers or TELUS or something like that. So there's a lot of other sides to think about, and I'll go back to one of the topics that one of my other panelists here talked about, and getting to know some people or asking some questions. I would invite anyone to call me or reach out to the Joy to Jobs people if they wanted to ask more about refrigeration. And if you put them in touch with me, I'd love to chat with someone about one of those careers in the trades and what my journey looked like. And having some of those questions answered could really help you out. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Well said, Megan. Okay, so yeah, I'll say for one of those, I'll equate it back to a thing that my partner always says before we go on a trip. She always says, make sure to pack your good attitude or your positive attitude. And I couldn't agree more with your first points. I've taken on many apprentices in carpentry and in cabinet making, and you can almost tell right away that I honestly don't care how good of a cabinet maker you are when you walk up to me. I can teach you how to be a good cabinet maker. The hard skills are the easiest things to teach someone. But if you have if you have a negative attitude, or if you are unwilling to be wrong or unwilling to learn, it's just a big red flag, and it will get you. There's certain people who have succeeded in the world that way, but I don't think it's a logical step forward for most people. So I would just say, be humble. That's a really good trait that I find in a lot of people. Be willing to learn, and just be positive. One of the best apprentices I've ever had in my whole life would on paper be a screw up. He would screw things up twice, but not because he meant to, just simply because it takes him a little bit longer to learn. But every time you could see how much it affected him when he messed things up. And you better believe the third time from then on in, it was the finest cabinet you've ever seen. He would constantly make it. So that positive attitude. And then to your second point also about sort of off topic, but having the prestige levels in the trade versus, let's say, the usual white collar jobs. The one punchline that I always give to students or to parents or anyone else like that was when I was in high school and I was doing the registered apprenticeship program, I had some teachers and some of my friends' parents not really concerned, asking me why I was doing this. They were wondering why somebody like me, who had pretty darn good grades, should have become an engineer, should have become something else. Why was I going into the trade? And my answer, I guess, was twofold. One, I loved it, working with my hands. I loved carpentry. But the second thing was I saw a quick path to success. So by the time I was 20, I had post-secondary education. I bought a house with my own money, and I had even more money stashed in the bank. I'm not saying that can happen to everybody, but at the age of 20, I had a pretty good leg up, and everyone that was pursuing that white collar job was all of a sudden turning to me and saying, whoa, maybe the trades are a legitimate career. Maybe that is something that I should pursue. So I will say that prestige is in, the eye of the beholder, and you can show success in different ways, and the proof is in the pudding too. So yeah, good attitude, hard work. Those are the two things I look for, and I would instill others to try to find in themselves.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you, everyone. Really great answers. So we're nearing the end of our time, so I'll pass it off to Katie here.
Yeah, so we've already got shared a bunch of really great wisdom, but we're just going to give the panelists kind of one last opportunity to share their last pieces of advice with high school students who are considering going into the trades. So Joel, we'll start with you. I know you just finished speaking, but yeah, do you have any last pieces of advice for high school students?
Oh, sure. Yeah, same thing that I guess, just to echo sort of what I was just saying. Don't be afraid to follow your passion. If it's, if you're, I don't want to judge, just make your passion something that you can build in, make your passion rewarding for yourself and not a negative thing. I don't want to tell people to, waste their whole lives doing something that might, bottom out somewhere. But if it's rewarding to you, and if you're passionate about it, chase it and work for it and have a positive attitude.
Really well said. Next, we'll go to Megan and see if she has any last pieces of advice.
Yeah, sure. One last parting thing, I guess, is when you get out in the career world, one other thing that I've done that's been really successful is I've tried to find a niche area in what I worked in. Maybe something, working on a type of equipment or working in an area where other people weren't very comfortable or got frustrated with it. And I would try and be a subject matter expert in that area and really learn it and perfect it. And I find that's helped me maintain that level of stability and being a highly sought after tradesperson in my career. Yes, and thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. And now on to you, Rupert.
Yeah, I would like to say to anybody that listens here, don't let yourself hold back for something that you think you are not good, because you might be not good in certain things now, and then all of a sudden you're getting into a trade, and part of your daily job is mathematics, and you said you are not good in mathematics, and all of a sudden you find that the mathematics in trade is actually something that you enjoy, right? So if you really want it, you can do it. And that's really what you need to tell you every day. If you really want it, you can do it. I give you a small little things. When I was in Germany, we got English lessons started in grade 5. I was too lazy to do my homework, and I got kicked out of English. And I said, well, I live in Germany, I don't need English. Now I'm here in Canada, not because I needed to learn English, but that where my career brought me to. But if I go back to that age where I said, no, I don't need it. I was so arrogant in my younger years that I did not know what I really needed. And so, you know, just because you didn't do it at one point in your life, it doesn't mean that you cannot pick up that skill. If you really want it, you can do it.
That's really good advice. I think especially for high school students, that's a really great message. And last but not least, Dan, if you'd like to share your wisdom with everyone.
Sure, and I realize that some of these things have been said, which probably just underscores the importance of them. So one of the things I've talked to literally thousands of high school students, and that I do a lot of career fairs and that. And so one thing I say is the best place, maybe the worst place to start is by Googling highest paying jobs. That's not a great starting point for, and usually most of the students have already done that. So I wouldn't recommend it. The other thing is when we talk about passion, I also say, think about what you're passionate about, but you also need to be gifted in it. And I have a little slide. I love rock climbing and you know, mountain biking and stuff like this, but I don't have a Red Bull sticker on the side of my helmet because I'm actually not that great at it. So you must, you know, be passionate, but you should also be gifted in this thing, and you will discover your giftings over time. And like I said before, when it comes to the things that you already enjoy doing, that tells you something about yourself. Don't discount that. It's like that. There's a gifting and a passion there for you. Also, don't necessarily try to fit into the mold that somebody else has for you. You know, everybody has a plan for your life. The best plan is the plan that you have for your life. And I think Rupert said it earlier too. You don't have to get it right as soon as you graduate. Some of us take years and years and years to fall into the thing that we love, that doesn't even feel like work, because my goodness, I can't believe I get paid to do that. That doesn't happen. That didn't happen for me right after I graduated high school. That took years afterwards. So don't put the pressure on yourself to get it right as soon as you graduate. I just had a meeting with a home builder this afternoon, and one of the things he said to me is, don't email an employer and ask, you know, for submit your resume. People still want to see your face. Go in person to these people and introduce yourself. This guy will not hire anybody through a newspaper article. Like, he does not advertise jobs. He says it's only word of mouth. I want to see a person. I want to talk to them. Like Megan said, you understand a lot about a person, just what their soft skills are. Are you a good communicator? Or, you know, you don't always know your work ethic, but you can find out a lot about a person just having a conversation. So get out there. Don't just send out resumes electronically. The other thing is, when you're looking for a job or a career, it's like, well, I don't know what I would like to do. I look at these thousands of career possibilities that are out there. Here's an option for you, because, and the same thing, like what courses should I take at school? Maybe the wrong question. Maybe go go into a field, a company like Rupert mentioned as well. Go to these places and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in becoming a chef. I know nothing about it. Would you let me hang out here for, for a few hours, a day, whatever. I want to be a mechanic, but I have no idea, if I want to be a heavy duty mechanic or whatever. Go to these companies and say, hey, I just want to hang out. I'm trying to, decide some direction on my life. And I can pretty much assure you that nobody's going to turn you away. Get away from me, punk. Like, what do you want? Everybody, trust me, they really are interested in seeing you, especially if you show the initiative. I'm out there trying to make something of my life. Trust me, people want to help you out, but you need to show some initiative. And yeah, that's it. And then the last thing would be teachable. That's it. And you'll go a long, long ways if you're teachable. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to chat with you all this afternoon.
Well, thank you very much. I think especially everybody's advice and everybody's kind of experiences and perspectives has been so fun to hear about. So thank you to all the panelists. It looks like we are unfortunately nearing the end of our time, probably a little bit over. So yeah, I'd just like to extend a really sincere thank you to all of our panelists and also to our sponsors, SAIT, Inception U, MRU, and Blackline Safety, and especially to SAIT for sponsoring this webinar in particular. I think there's so many resources everywhere about like health sciences and engineering and stuff, and I think it's really important to have also resources for the trades. So that's really awesome. And yeah, learned so much from everyone today.
And this is just one of the many webinars that we're going to be having to explore different careers. Make sure to join us on April 12th, where we are partnering with Indeed to explore job applications, and also join us on May to explore careers in computer science and technology. And for more resume and career building webinar updates, stay tuned to our website at joy2job.com and also our Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, which can also be found on our website.
And thank you everyone for signing up. And we hope you have a really great rest of your evening. There's a post-webinar survey, which we would really appreciate if you could fill out just after you leave the meeting. And so with that, we'll say goodbye. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you all for hosting us too.
Thank you very much for letting us being part of that.